like everybody to say hello to the reigning Road to the Horse champion, Mr. Nick Dowers. Nick, it was 1 year ago that we sat right here in this arena, and all of us had the opportunity to watch you compete, and more importantly, you had the opportunity to take the title of Road to the Horse champion. Let's talk about the past year. Has things changed for you?
Yeah, I still get up and still got to go to work every day and work hard at my craft, but no, it's been good. It was good to be able to kind of tie the two worlds together, the performance horse with the horsemanship, and kind of get a little bit more notoriety in that aspect, and it's fun to tie the two worlds together.
It's safe to say that it's hard to have one without the other. They kind of go hand in hand, correct?
For sure. It definitely is. The cornerstone of my program with my high-end performance horses is horsemanship. So nothing changes, it's just a little different application.
So what's been happening? Tell us about your last year. What has Nick been doing?
Well, mostly just business as usual. We went home and we had a busy show schedule. Had some success at some shows last year. It was an awful good year for the program, then we rolled into winter, and now we are ready to do it again.
I got to tell you, for everybody that was involved and everybody that knew Nick prior to Road to the Horse, obviously you had some fans, you had people that had followed your career. But I got to say that last year as a fan, and just me taking myself completely out of the Road to the Horse family, knowing this, it was fun for me to just sit back and all of a sudden see from 2 and 3 years old to 70 and 80-year-old men and women walking around Road to the Horse with these crazy little mustaches.
Yeah.
How cool is that to sit there and to all of a sudden you see, you'd look out and you'd see elderly women, you'd see little babies. Well, I literally saw a baby that couldn't have been a year old last year wearing a mustache that looked like yours.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm just a ranch kid from Nevada, and to have people look up to me and stuff, that's a lot of responsibility, and I don't take it lightly.
I think you just hit the nail on the head. You're a ranch kid from Nevada. You're a Road to the Horse champion. You're a champion in multiple, different events. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, that is what draws us all to you is nothing's changed. You're still a ranch kid from Nevada, and it's fun for us to be a fan. It really is.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a fun journey.
So speaking of the journey, it was right here a year ago. So what do you say? Let's kind of take a look back in time, and I'm going to have you walk us through everything. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, Nick.
Thank you. So what we're thinking about doing today here is we thought it'd be fun for you guys to kind of get a behind-the-scenes feel of what I was thinking as we were performing. So today we're just kind of got a little bit of a view from my seat, what I was seeing and thinking and why I did some of the things I did. And then DJ over here, he's going to be kind of cruising around. And at some points of the discussion here, I'll go to DJ, and if you got a question that you were just dying to ask pertaining to what I was just talking about or something related to this, we can sure get to you and try to get it answered. So first of all, one of the things that I did different, you might say, is right off the bat, I started putting some obstacles in there, or not so much obstacles as objects to me. And my reason behind that was, so these horses, as they come into this world, this arena, they've never been exposed to any of these things. So I wanted the new normal to be pool noodles, balls, tarps, all these different things. And as you see, when I'm working my horse here, I just pretend like they're not even there. And so like right there's a good example. He checked that ball out on his own without me really asking him or figuring out a way to get him up to it. I'm just got some objects here, and we're just letting him they're nothing more than the panels, like the panels are there, and that's the new normal to him, just the same as these objects. I didn't want to bring them in kind of one at a time and kind of re-scare him with a new thing every time. I wanted this to be the normal. So right off the bat here, I was able to catch this horse pretty quick, and that just kind of happened. He was I was between him and the gate, and he wanted to be caught, and so I caught him. And so the first thing I was wanting to get on this horse is where I could take a hold of this lead rope, and I could get him to kind of give in these hindquarters. So you'll see I'm not really trying to get him to go forward as much as I'm just trying to get him to kind of keep track of me. I want him and I to start to get on the same page. And so what I found the best way to do that is I keep track of him and then he keeps track of me. It's kind of a 50-50 deal here. I don't want to be doing all the work as far as, come to me. I think if I'm asking, hey, stay with me, hey, stay with me, hey, stay with me, pretty soon it's not too fun to stay with me. So if I can be creative in ways to get him to kind of want to draw his attention towards me, it seems to work a heck of a lot better. And then from there, I just went right into getting one saddled. This horse, he checked out on some of these things just real rapid. So to me, if I was at home, which I tried to make it like I was at home, I would have saddled him. So I just went ahead and got him saddled. I didn't want to have any shortcuts, but I wanted to prepare him, but I also needed to move along at a pretty fast clip. And, like I said, he checked out on a lot of this stuff pretty good, so I was able to advance him at a pretty rapid rate. But all the while, I'm just trying to keep in mind the end goal. So for this competition, the end goal is kind of, it's the process for sure, but it's getting them ready for that obstacle course. So as in getting them ready for that obstacle course, you'll see as I've already got a snaffle, I've just got a string around on his head holding the snaffle in there, and I'm just letting him learn to kind of pack that snaffle and get comfortable with the bit, all the while I'm working on quite a few different things at once. I think that's the key to this horsemanship, is how can we build something along without taking away from something else in the process. There we go, that's pretty good. So like I said, I'm real interested in working with horses. How can I get them to want to be kind of with me, but I don't want it to be in kind of a forced manner. I want to work smooth, and I want it to be, like a pleasure to be there. I don't want them to feel like they have to be there as much as I want them to feel like they want to be there. And so, like, as you can see, it was pretty early in the process, but he's standing just as quiet as he can be because he's kind of starting to realize there's no better place in the arena than right there with me. And then, so I'm getting him saddled here, and I'm thinking here as I'm getting him saddled, my next move is I've got to be as ginger as possible here on moving him off, because I could sure move him off pretty abrupt here, and I could put a troubled spot in that I work so hard not to put in. So you'll see I just kind of move around here, and I'm trying to kind of almost walk on eggshells right here so he doesn't associate getting saddled with like a panic situation or a real uncomfortable feel. You'll see I cinch my saddle up real smooth quite a few times, and I'm just working real hard right here to kind of not rock the boat, you might say. Because if I get on there and I sneak the saddle on and then I move him off in a big hoorah, it's real easy for him to get troubled right there. And in a deal like this, and in a deal in everyday life, we don't want to put a spot in like that I'm going to have to take out later. So what I've kind of found through the years is I'm just going to take it real slow right there and try to work him into it easy and make this potentially scary situation pretty easy. DJ, do those people have a question? Yeah, let's hear.
What would you have done differently as far as time or strategies if you weren't under the time constraints of the competition?
Good question. So a lot of things, I went into this competition thinking about it like this. So when growing up on a ranch, there's a lot of times where you don't have the perfect horse for the perfect job. Let's say I'm on a green colt, and for some reason a calf gets on the other side of the fence, and I got to bring it back or whatever, and I end up needing to rope that calf. there's a lot of times where maybe I didn't have the time to get my horse ready to be roped on, and I didn't have the time to go switch, and it wasn't the perfect scenario. And so that's how I thought about this competition was, this competition, is it exactly how I would do it at home? No, not necessarily, but that doesn't mean that I can't bring my horsemanship values and my core principles to the party, and it can't be a good experience for them. You know, the guys I learned from, they were so good at, no matter what they did, making it a good experience for the horse, and that's all I tried to do here. I just had to tweak a few little things as far as the preparation process. You know, you might not be as thorough as some, but just make an educated guess and do the best you can with the job you were presented, being fair to the horse in the process. That's about the only thing different that I did. I hope that answers your question. Yep, I try to think of it as, I want to be a good enough hand to where even if it's not the best situation, it's more real world, real life things. I want to be hand enough where I can make that a good experience, and that's all I tried to do here. And I mean, that's all everybody tries to do is, you know, we're under a time frame, but that doesn't mean we got to lose our horsemanship principles and values just because there's a clock. Thanks. So one of the things with this horse, I felt like I could have done a better job of, kind of goes back to your question here. The first day, I kind of let it get to me as far as, you know, I've never started a horse with this many people watching, and there is that clear goal at the end of the week that we're all trying to get our horse ready for that obstacle course. And there was dang sure some times I felt like I could have gave my horse more time to soak. I could have set it up and let him digest what I was working on a little better. That first day, I kind of got pressured up a little bit, and it wasn't as smooth as I'd have liked it to be. And then I kind of went home and shook myself and looked in there, and I said, hey, you know, you got to do what brought you here, and you got to do what's right by the horse, and then the speed will come. And it's just, if you watch the video, you probably wouldn't even see what I was talking about, but there was little moments where I could have gave him a little extra 10 seconds here, a little 15 seconds here, and I think that's real key, is being able to kind of recognize those points and then better yourself from it. You know, it's all a means to an end. Just the same when I show. When I'm showing, I have the end result being that show, and I've got to have my horse at peak performance on a certain day. And how do I get him there without sacrificing all this good stuff that we're all talking about? And that's a hard thing. And I think that's why people, you know, they tend to look at a show, or whether it's a horse show or a colt starting competition, and they look at it negative because there is a time frame, there is a date on a calendar, and we get to thinking that just because there's a date that we're gonna, by all means necessary. And I don't think of it that way at all. It's not by all means necessary to me. It's the thrill of the challenge of my horsemanship to get them ready. It's the same thing here. Like, it's the thrill of having the opportunity to be challenged at the highest level, and that's what I try to do with my horsemanship, whether it's starting a colt or getting ready to show. You know, it's a means to an end, and it's fun to be challenged.
Just right for me. I want to just see if I can just get him on track just a little bit.
So now I'm on number 7 here, and it's the same. This is the same spot as I just talked about earlier with the saddle. I'm going to be real careful not to kind of rush him off right here. I'm just going to barely kind of work it, and then anything he gives me forward, I'm going to take it. So you'll see he's kind of stuck. And then anything like that, I'm just going to back right off and let him know that that's kind of what I want. The best thing I can do here to let him know what I want is just back right off as soon as it becomes his idea to do something. Like I might make it a little tough for him to stand here, but as soon as he starts to free up, I'm going to let that be the best thing possible for him. You'll see here, he kind of gets stuck. And then in my mind right here, I'm not really thinking, okay, I need to get him going as much as I'm just thinking I'm going to make it a little uncomfortable for him to stay. That getting going will take care of itself as long as I just make it a bit uncomfortable for him to kind of stand around here. And you'll see here, he hasn't gone right yet. He's just kind of stuck right there to the left. And you watch. I'm not going to make it a big deal to go to the right as much as I'm just going to kind of create a little bit of work or, create a little bit of incentive for him to go to the right, and then he'll offer up the right on his own. And then just like there, he offered up the right on his own. If you remember back to, as I work, well, let me talk about this. When I work a horse, I work really, really, really hard to not draw a line in the sand as far as, oh, I don't want you to go over there, or I don't want you to do this, I don't want you to do this. Because I feel like as soon as you draw that line in the sand, they know where that line is, whether it's imaginary or not, and the first thing they want to do, or not want to, is they feel like they have to go to the other side of that line. Whether that line is, let's say, your horse wants to go back to the barn, so you draw that line and say, no, you can't go to the barn, you can't go to the barn. And that's the first place they want to go. So I work really, really hard to not draw those imaginary lines with my horsemanship, because then I'm not creating, if I don't draw the line, then it doesn't become a competition. And that's a key part, is I didn't draw the line and make this horse go to the right. I just worked with what he was giving me until he offered the right. And there's a huge, huge difference in the mental with the horse. Like, for sure, I could have pulled him to the right there, and I could have made him go to the right, but I want it to be his idea, because it's going to be a lasting idea. And so I try not to create these invisible lines. And if you could do that in your horsemanship, whatever it is just amazing how quick they get on the same page. Because when you create those imaginary lines of the do-nots and the do's, then that's the first place they want to go. And you're just really teaching them, you kind of teach them how to argue because you told them not to do something. I don't tell a horse not to do something. He's got a choice. But a lot of times once he realizes that if he aligns his thought with my thought, it all goes away. Like, everything becomes clear, simple, and easy. Yeah, DJ, I think we're ready.
Nick, you do a great job, buddy, and I'm sure proud to watch you. What is one of your main processes of picking the colts in the Remuda when it comes in the ring?
You bet. Good question. Thank you. And I get that question a lot. How do you pick your show horses, and what was your process in picking number 7? For me, I'm really big on just going by my gut, going by my heart, and picking what stands out to me. So if I watch a group of horses like I did last year, I watch them go around out there, and the one that kind of, I don't know, in a way, he just kind of says, ooh, that one, I don't know what it is, I can't really explain it, but I like that horse. And so I just go on that. I don't try to overcomplicate it, I just go with my gut. And there was something about that horse that said, hey, that's your kind of horse, so I went with it. And I do the same thing when I'm picking my show horse prospects. I don't get too caught up in the pedigree. I mean, there's dang sure some parameters there, but I go by my gut. If I see a horse that looks like he's got something special to offer, which they all do in different ways, but if I see a horse that just kind of says, hey, there's something special about me, that's the one I pick. And I just kind of try to do that. Sure, we can go on the next one. Yeah, DJ, you got another one?
Yeah, this is real good. I'm pumped to get
Congratulations on your
because this
win
is
last
exactly
year.
what I
We
do at
certainly
home,
enjoyed watching your
like Brett Hunt used to
process.
say, first
Our
day,
question
make
is,
money.
did you
Second day,
purchase
make it even.
number
Third
7?
day, put 'em on the payroll.
And if
So now
you
we're
didn't
kinda getting ready
purchase
for
number
that.
7,
This
do you
is-
know
this
what
is,
has happened to him in
having
this
this
past
opportunity
year?
to come out here.
Yeah, I know exactly what's happened to him. He was purchased by a gentleman named Fred, and he went home with us, and he hasn't left since. He's still there. He's in training there at the ranch, and he's kind of our go-to horse. We use him for anything and everything. He turns back. What I mean by turn back is when I'm working my show horses, he keeps the cattle pushed back to me. Just last weekend, we branded calves on him. He does everything. If I need a rope horse, I go grab him. If I need a turnback horse, we go with him. I took him when I went deer hunting in the mountains. We took him up there, and he packed out my deer. He's just kind of the go-to Johnny on the spot, everything kind of horse to us. Yep. So this is kind of a key here. I thought when we got to this point in the competition where I could go outside, well, we just went by it. But when I got to the competition in the part where we could go outside, then it was kind of like a light bulb, an aha moment went off with number 7. We built a bit of a foundation in that round pen on going and freedom and things, and it was clicking. But once we got out here and it was more like a real world application, you could see the light bulbs were going off. And I had a real good opportunity to not draw that line in the sand as in going back to the gate. He kind of wanted to go to the gate, so I just used that to get him to go and to get his ears up. And we'd go here, and then we'd start out over here. And then before he'd get too lost, we'd go back, and we'd go back. And it didn't really look like I was doing much, but I was doing a lot in the sense that I didn't ever draw that line and say, don't do this. You can't go over by the gate. That's where you want to go. You can't go back to the round pen. That's where you want to go. I didn't draw any lines, and you could see as we were working there where I didn't say you couldn't do anything, so there wasn't anything he didn't feel like he could do. So he just went everywhere we wanted to go, and you'll see his ears were up and he got really free. And the other thing that I really thought we got going for us that second day was, and it doesn't sound like much, but I got him to where he could really walk. Like he was walking really free, and I felt like anytime I'd build my life, he'd build it with me. And it becomes a concern sometimes I hear it a lot, like, well, you didn't lope him the first day, or you need to put him, you need a lope. You got to make sure you lope these colts right away because they need to feel the full range of motion. And for me, that's not really something I think about, because I know if I've got this horse lively and I can build that life and I can have that life right at my fingertips, right at the surface, that the lope is no big deal. And even this second day when I come out here, I felt like if I would come out here and I would have forced the lope, that I would kind of almost draw that line I was talking about, like we got to get to that lope. And if I draw that line, there's going to be some trouble there. Like he's going to feel me push him to that line, whatever that line is, and he's not going to want to go there. So I just made it nothing but easy for him to liven up. And as simple as it seems, just that walk that I got out here made a huge difference when it come to the last day, because he's like, oh, I know what it means. So what you'll see here in a moment when the finals day come, I mean, we were rolling and we were free. And the first couple days we didn't have a lot of forward, but I knew if I stayed true and I got that, I could get him to liven up without tightening up, and I didn't force the issue, that it was going to be there. I just had to trust in my experience there and just let him build into it slowly. And so going back to what's happening on the screen, then I'm moving into doing getting him ready for the obstacle course. Same thing here. I don't think of these obstacles like, hey, I don't ever want them to feel like I'm pressuring them into something. It's more like we're working here and then the relief is just waiting for them there. And kind of so everything sets up where it's their idea. And that's all I did right here on these obstacles. Like, you don't see me really working too much to get them up to a certain point, as much as we'll just be doing a little something here, doing a little something there, and then it just so happens that the obstacle's in front of me. Okay, DJ, let's see.
Congratulations, and thank you for showing us so much. I have a question. Did you not worry about not having given him some kind of a way to stop, or like a one-rein stop before you went out into the big arena?
No, I didn't. And the reason for that is kind of the same as the reason for not loping. So this horse, I worked really, really hard. Like, I'd say the biggest thing I worked with this horse was teaching him to liven up and to kind of begin to maintain some life. And so the reason I didn't do much one-rein stops or pull his head around or anything like that was because I didn't want to shut down any of the forward motion that I worked so hard to create. And if you'll see, it started right as soon as this video started, where I was just getting him to kind of keep track of me and keep some slack in that rope. And that's all I do from his back. Is I never really get in a pulling match with him as much as I'll just kind of fix and wait, and everything waits on them. And so I know from experience, if I got control of them, that mind, and I can direct the mind, then I don't really need emergency brake in the aspect that if I've got them mentally, I've kind of got them as far as I can place them where I need to be placed. And that's why if you remember back in the rail work, when I went to do my stop with two hands, like, he didn't have much of an understanding, and I kind of just taught him how to do it as we were going around, for the same reason that I didn't want to kill that forward motion because I was working so hard to get it, but I felt like I had him steering enough that everything was going to be fine and I was going to be safe. As we watch here, this is another example of not kind of forcing the issue on him. Like, as soon as I come out here, I'm thinking about building his confidence to go to that end of the arena. This is huge for me, because if I would have come out and said, hey, draw that line I'm talking about, and say, hey, we're going to that end of the arena, that's the first place he's not going to want to go, because he's going to feel me wanting to push him there, and he's going to say, there's too much pressure there. I don't want to go there. And so what you'll see is I'll challenge him, but as soon as he gives me a little try, I go right back to where he's comfortable. And I think sometimes we can take that to an extreme. You can not challenge your horse because you don't want to put that line out there. That's not what I'm saying. What I like to do is, we'll watch it here as I go up this side. Like, he's going pretty good, and then he'll get a little stuck, and then I'm going to challenge him to try a little harder, and then as he gives it to me, see, like, we're getting a little stuck. No big deal. I'm just going to let him struggle at this, and then you watch those ears come up, and then before he says, it's too much, I'm going to say, yeah, you're right, it is. Let's go back. And then just build that trust one trip at a time until he's like, hey, we can go wherever you need to go, because I mean, we've all heard it said, but they build a trust in us, and they know if they realize that we're sensitive to their fears and their just their well-being, they realize that we're sensitive to that, then you can get so much more done, because they start to trust what you're offering, and they realize that, hey, this guy's, what he's got to offer, it's real. And so when they realize that, then man, it just snowballs, and you can really start to get some things done, because you're starting to work together. You're not going from a horse and a human. You're starting to work together, and you can really start to really get things done. The problem lies in that is, I'll say, hey, don't draw lines. Then next thing you know, you don't challenge him. Like, you'll see just right here, I'm challenging him, and then as soon as he offers up a little bit more, then I'm going to say, yeah, that's just right, bud. Here, let's go back. Oh, this is the first time we went around. And so, like, right there, he couldn't have been any prettier right there. He struggled, and then he said, oh, I know what to do. And he threw his ears up, and he trotted through there just like he'd done it 100 times. And why did he do that? Because he wanted to. Like, he's realizing that I'm not going to overexpose him. I'm here to help him, And so he's starting to get a trust built in on what we're doing. It makes a huge, huge difference. And that's why, as I watch this, that's why you can start to see things just really snowball in a good way, because he's got 3 days, or this is the third day, and he's like, man, I see kind of why all this stuff's starting to tie together, and we're starting to become more of a partnership than just a horse and a guy riding around. So the beauty of this format was it gives you a little bit of time to put a ride on them. So what I was my strategy here was, okay, I'm gonna take a few minutes here and I'm gonna go ahead and recap on all the stuff we've been working towards. Like nothing really changed, but the application was a little different. The application being, we're really getting dialed in for this obstacle course. And so I went ahead and took some time and tried to get him dialed in on some of the things we were working on. And that's all I'm doing right here. Just I didn't get a lot of time to work on some turns and some two rein, kind of shutting him down with two reins. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on some of this stuff that I didn't really have an opportunity to work on before. And it kind of goes back to the first question, what would I do different? It's not so much that I do things different. Everything he did in this last day was not a surprise to me. What he was good at was the things that we had an opportunity to work on. The things that we didn't excel at were the things that, with the time restraint, we didn't have the opportunity to work on them. We still got the job done, but we just didn't have the time to do all the preparation to make it just a seamless deal. But the key to it is we got the pieces we needed to accomplish the task, but we didn't smoke them in the process. That was my whole goal. And so, like I said, in saying that, nothing he did this last day surprised me. He was good at the things we had time for, and he needed a little bit more time on some of the other things. But the key is he was in a good frame of mind on the whole process, for sure. For sure. And that goes back to this. I'm teaching him to stop on two reins for the first time, getting him ready in the obstacle. And so you'll see here, he's racking his head around and he's not real good at it, but you don't ever see me, I don't change. He's kind of fighting and struggling, but you won't ever see me, hopefully, you won't ever see me to where he's not sure, and you see me kind of grip my teeth and be like, oh, I'm gonna force you into it, as much as I just let him work at it. I took a hold of him and he's kind of doing this, but I mean, I've definitely got some pressure there, but for the most part, he put that pressure on himself, so then when he finds his way off, I'm the good guy. It's a pretty simple concept, it's just hard to get it all applied. So yeah, again, right here, see, you'll see me, I'll just pick my hands up, and it's kind of like he's pulling on himself, and then as soon as he gives, I just give right back, and he's starting to learn, oh, okay, I get this. Like, this is nothing different than all the other things you were working on. There's something in it for me. I just got to find out what that something is. Yeah, it's really fun for me to look back at this video, because I haven't watched it in about a year. I watched it when I went home, and then I haven't watched it for a while. So it's fun for me to watch this video and see what I needed to do different, like what I could challenge myself on as just a horseman to be better next time. Like how could I do a better job? And that's how I look at competition. It's not about the horse, it's about testing myself. I mean, I said that wrong. It is about the horse. It's about testing myself to stay true to my core beliefs, my core principles, and just adjust the practice to make it fit for that horse. And that's a fun thing. I feel like if I didn't have these tests, I wouldn't challenge myself to get better. You know, there wouldn't be those nights where you go home and you're just like, oh man, how can I get this figured out? And that's all this stuff is for me. It's fun to have just that goal to work towards to become a better horseman. And that's essentially what we all want to do, is we want to become better. And then the other thing I try really, really hard to do when I'm working with my horses is even though it's a job and even though it's how I make my living, I've got to say to myself, you know, I got to remind myself that this is my passion. This is what God called me to do. And I don't want it to ever become anything other than a passion, and I don't want it to feel like, oh, I got to get up and I got to go to work. I want it to be fun, because as soon as I make it a job and I make it to where it's more of a have to than a want to, that's going to translate over to my horses like super quick. And so I want to make sure that I remember kind of why I'm doing it, and keep everything in perspective that way, and make it just as fun for the horse to learn as it's fun for me to learn. I think if we get stagnant and we quit learning and we don't challenge ourselves, then the horses, they're just a mirror of us, and they'll do the same thing. Yeah, go ahead, DJ.
Hi, congratulations. This is actually my first road to the horse. I just have a generic question. Do you prefer working with mares or geldings or studs?
Right. No, I don't really. I try to be the kind of guy, the kind of hand that I would like to think that no matter the sex, the age, the discipline, I want to be handy enough where I can get the job done on anything. To me, that's kind of a definition of a true horseman. Is it doesn't really matter what it is or what the situation. You should be able to get some results. You know, how do we get on the same page? How do I convey to this horse in this certain situation or that certain situation that, hey, this is a pretty good deal and there's something in it for you. They might not see what the something is for a while, and it might take a little bit, but I really want them to see that I'm pretty honest, and I'm faithful. You know, you help me, we help each other, and we work towards a common goal. And once they kind of get on the team, I mean, it is just amazing what they can do for you. And some of that is kind of hard to see in the colt starting. I mean, it is and it isn't, but when it's so fun for me to see in my show horses when they truly understand kind of what's expected of them, and they go out there and they just lay it on the line. I mean, I've had some runs. I can think of a couple runs last year where this one horse in particular, we went out there and it was just like I talked about in my clinic last year. When I turned on that on switch and I said, okay, you know your job, let's go get it. And it was like, hang on, Nick, let's go. And when you can feel that, they truly know what they're doing and they want to go do it. And it's like, hold on, buddy, we're going to go get this thing. There's nothing better. There is nothing better than a horse that truly wants to do his job. We can go to the next one, DJ.
Hi, congratulations.
Thanks.
Have you ever worked with horses that seem to always have a spook? How do you get that spook out?
Yeah, well, as you'll see as I talk here, it's kind of a common theme. When you talk about a horse that spooks and different things like that, is, you know, it's getting them to believe in what you're offering them it's real and it's true. And I mean, this is kind of a roundabout way of answering it, but that's all I'm trying to do here and with any horse, is just convey to them that what I'm offering them, it's true, it's real, there's a belief there, and then once you get that, all the other little stuff goes away. And it's so true. If I, for example, going through these obstacles, had I gone through obstacles before on this horse? Well, I did a little bit in the round pen, but it was different than this. But what I did have kind of working for me here was the horse knew from all the rail work when I was warming him up, hey, when this guy points me here, and even though there might be a little struggle, there's something in it for me. I'm going to go see what it is. And that's how you can get through some of these struggles, is if the horse knows that, hey, there's something there for me, I just got to go find it, then you're working. Then you're really getting some stuff done. And it doesn't really matter what the task is. You could ask them to do anything, and if they believe in you, they'll do it. And that's when it's fun for me, really fun, for sure. So when we go back to this video and I look at this right here, this is a moment where I say, man, I kind of drew a line here. I didn't give him the time that I probably should have. And granted, we're right halfway through the final course, and as you can see, I wasn't near as considerate to his offering this tarp to me as I normally would have. And this is something I see, and I think I can do a better job of next time. See, I gave him a little break, but I could have gave him an extra 10 seconds there, and it probably wouldn't have made a big difference as far as the outcome of the event, but it would have made a huge difference to him. And so seeing that's a good learning opportunity for me. See, I gave him time there, but I didn't give him enough time. And it's not that I needed to let him sit there for 10 minutes, but I needed to let him sit there long enough to kind of go, okay, that's what he's after. That's what he wants. And I didn't do that, and you'll see the results speak for themselves. I drew a line and said, hey, we need to get on this tarp. And I didn't abuse him and really get after him to get on the tarp, but I didn't give him the time he needed, and the results speak for themselves. See, he didn't do it. Because I didn't take the extra 10 seconds here, 20 seconds here to really show him, hey, I'm with you. I got you. I realize you're trying. I realize things are going on. That's something I felt like I could have done a little better on. And then as we cruise through stuff like this, then again, it's just back to the steering and pointing him where I want to go. He got really strong on that aspect of it. He was like, okay, you point me there, it's a pretty good place. And then right here, it's kind of funny. It worked out perfect. He kind of distracts himself by there's a little bit of bark on that sign, and he was kind of distracting himself. It made me look pretty good, like he was really gentle, and he is, but we had a nice little distraction there. That was good. So it's the same thing here. I'm looking at this with just as critical of eye as I can, because I want to be better. I want to come out of this deal and learn something from it. Just as I'm teaching him, I want to be teaching myself at the same time. And I didn't do a very good job of getting prepared with my right rein right there. I mean, that was just bad preparation on my part, and so the results spoke for themselves. I mean, I didn't get him turned right there, and so then I got to reorganize, get my things together, and then we'll attempt it again. And you'll watch, he kind of boogers just a little bit, like right there. And the reason he did that is because I didn't prepare him the time before. And so as I'm working with a horse here or anywhere, those are some of the things. Just a little prevention is worth 20 pounds a cure. And I didn't prepare him, and I paid the price there that first time. And that's what I talk about a little bit in the belief. Because of my lack of preparation, he thought that's what he was supposed to do. And so the second time, when I kind of blocked it, it kind of startled him, and he's like, whoa, no, we're supposed to go turn left. And I kind of had to say to him, no, we got to go right. And there was a bit of disruption there because we weren't on the same page. And like I said, that's all I'm working towards, is getting on the same page. And that's where, if you start to get on the same page and you're starting to work together, even though I'd never gotten a gait on him, he was pretty successful at getting this gait. They made me do it like 30 times, and it was because we were starting to get on the same page on some of these things, and he was starting to learn, hey, there's something in it for me. I get with this guy. We got a job to do. We're gonna get some stuff done. Like I said, it doesn't really matter the task at hand. It's about getting on the same page, and it makes all the difference in the world. Okay, DJ?
You sort of explained it, but I wanted to add on to that. Have you ever found, let's say, a colt that's very willing on its first ride and is with you quite a bit? Do you ever get shocked later, maybe a month down the road or 2 months down the road, that something explodes out of him? Or have you found that, generally speaking, the way you start continues out through the next couple of months of his training?
Well, my way to answer that is there is times, like let's say a specific thing you're doing with your horse. Let's just say, for example, it's stopping. There's a lot of times where I'm teaching a horse to stop, and then let's say this horse right off the bat, he figures it out, and he's just eating it up, and it's a good deal for him. And so a lot of times that'll carry on for 3 or 4 days, and then it seems like the new wears off, and then you gotta teach him to stop. Like there's things that they do. Some horses just naturally do things, and they just excel at it right away. And so you can ride on that for a while until the new wears off, and then you got to go through and teach them just the same as you'd have to teach them at the things that weren't so natural. So no, that's pretty common, especially in what I do. Like they might turn around really decent right off the bat. You know, I start a colt and he's real natural and he's got a really good step, and he's kind of like, oh, this is fun, you know, this is new, and he turns around really good, and then it seems like in a week or 2 or 3, it's kind of like, wow, he doesn't turn around as good as he did. And then you kind of got to go in there and really teach him some of the things, the mechanic part of doing the maneuver. Yeah, it's pretty common. So here we're just kind of getting him ready for Darth Vader in a box here. Yeah, that was kind of wild. Kind of wild. It was. It goes back, I mean, it sounds like I'm pretty redundant, but it goes back to my horse. At this point, he trusts what I'm offering, and that's why this is not really that big of a deal. I'm trying to ask for more, and he's kind of like, I'm not so sure about it, so you'll see. I'll just kind of let him struggle there, and then when he finds a spot to get comfortable, then I'm going to give it back. But it kind of all goes back to, by this point, he really understands that I'm his guy, and we're a partnership, and we're starting to roll. And then at this point, I was, you know, you have a allotted time to do a freestyle, but for this horse and his plane of learning, like I felt like he had given me so much here. He's kind of farting around. I felt like he'd given me so much, and there was so much that we did. I wanted to kind of give it back, and just for his sake, I would say, hey, we're good. You know, you've given me more than I could ask for, and I was happy with that, and that's why for my freestyle I didn't do anything too spectacular. We just kind of rode around because he'd given me so much, and I was happy with it.
I'm going to ask you a question as a fan. After all of that and everything that had happened, that last little ride that you made just around the arena before knowing any of the results, how good did that feel to just cut loose and just ride?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Yeah, I felt like I didn't know how the other guys did. Obviously, I'm back there, and you know, but for what he gave me from where we come from, I was tickled.
Yeah, he came a long way in a very short amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt like that, especially that last day. All the preparation was really starting to work, and we were starting to kind of become a partnership a little bit more.
You talked earlier. The question was asked how you selected your horse, and you said you typically, even your show horse, you just go with your gut. Is that the same way you picked your wife?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
you just go with your gut.
Go with your gut.
If everybody's been living under a rock for the last couple of years, how can we find Nick Dowers?
NickDowers.com.
That's easy, too easy. Keep it simple. Ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor. Big thank you, if you will, to our reigning Road to the Horse champ, Mr. Nick Dowers. Nick, it's a pleasure.